We turn now to a string of shootings in New Mexico that officials say were the result of a politically motivated election denier. Local authorities yesterday arrested and charged Solomon Peña, a failed 2022 candidate for the New Mexico State House. He faces 15 counts, including conspiracy and criminal solicitation, after he allegedly paid 4 men to shoot at the homes of 2 county commissioners and 2 state legislators. Thankfully, no one was injured in any of those incidents. In a press conference yesterday, the Albuquerque police chief said Peña is believed to be the, quote, mastermind behind the shootings, which spanned a month from December 4th to January 3rd. Investigators also believe Peña was present for at least one of them. Following the election this November, Peña confronted at least 3 county commissioners and a state senator at their homes with paperwork falsely claiming that his election was rigged. Peña also tweeted a photo of himself after the election in a red Make America Great Again sweatshirt, writing, quote, I never conceded. NBC's Garrett Hake has more on Peña's arrest.
Kristen, Peña will be held without bond, and when you read the charging documents here, the warrant for his arrest, it's not hard to see why. There are chilling details in here of this shooting spree and what police say was a conspiracy to do it here, including one of the victims whose 10-year-old daughter came into her room in the middle of the night and said she thought she felt something on her face and that it felt sandy in her bed. She asked to sleep with her mother. The next morning, the two of them went back into the little girl's room and discovered bullet holes in the wall. That sandy feeling was from plaster, sawdust from the bullet holes going through the daughter's room into the bed. As a parent, it's just terrifying. And that's what these Democratic lawmakers in New Mexico were subjected to here. And it really is part of a larger trend we're seeing of this kind of increasing political violence and threats against lawmakers. Now, the Capitol Police Chief briefed Congress late last year describing the threat environment as the worst he'd ever seen. He said in 2021, the last year they had the statistics complete, there were 9,000 threats against members of Congress. It's a massive uptick year over year over year that we're continuing to see. And in many cases, lawmakers are now fitting the bill for additional security out of their own pockets. $10,000 here, $20,000 there. Some lawmakers spending upwards of $100,000 to supplement their own security. Now, lawmakers are provided with some budget for security, but some feel like it's just not enough. There aren't enough Capitol Police officers to go around. There aren't enough resources. And that's for members of Congress who are going to have significantly more resources at their disposal than would state-level lawmakers like these folks in New Mexico or at any other state capital around the country. So I think this is clearly a recurring threat. It's a cultural threat that is now baked in. The idea that at least threats, if not violence itself, has now become culturally and socially acceptable to some when their political needs are not being met. And you're seeing this on both sides of the aisle, although, again, the kind of right-wing, nationalist, election-denying brand is what we see here in this incident in New Mexico, and what does seem to be most on the upswing and kind of most traceable to one specific consistent ideology. If you're taught to believe, if you are told that an election is stolen and the very democratic process is at threat, and if you really believe that, it's not hard to see how someone might somehow kind of escalate into that violent zone here. So that's what we're seeing at the state level, what we're seeing at the national level. There's been somewhat of an effort here on the Hill over the last year or so to try to lower the temperature with this rhetoric. But as you well know, Kristen, it only takes 1 or 2 comments or tweets to jack it right back up again and keep that threat environment for our elected officials so high.
Incredibly disturbing. Garrett Hake, thank you so much for that report. I want to now bring in newly appointed New Mexico District Attorney Sam Bregman. Thank you so much for joining me, District Attorney Bregman. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I want to just get you to respond to what we heard from Garrett Hake. You heard him talk about the uptick in political violence. What was your reaction to hear that it had happened in your own community?
It's terrifying. It should never be terrifying for an elected official to be an elected official, but yet we're seeing more of this across the country, and we saw it here in Albuquerque. And it's terrifying for the people involved. I mean, today the legislature starts in New Mexico, right? I mean, obviously this is the talk going through the legislature. Instead of greeting their fellow legislators and starting the business of the people, they're having to worry about the safety for themselves and for their family. And, an attack on an elected official is an attack on democracy. And it is really troubling to see this uptick. Whether or not it's a Republican or a Democrat, it does not matter. The fact that somebody is going to try and try violence as a political speech in some way is just so unacceptable. And we're going to hold this individual and the others involved responsible in a court of law.
And I'm glad you make that point. This is something that cuts across the political spectrum. Let's talk about the suspect in this case, Mr. Peña. Is he speaking with investigators? Is he cooperating?
I can tell you that he is in custody right now, and he's lawyering up, as the saying goes, which is he entitled to. And of course, he's innocent until and unless he's proven guilty in a court of law. But we feel like we have the pieces of the puzzle at this point. The investigation is by the way, the Albuquerque Police Department did a tremendous job on this, and I'm very grateful to them for the work they did. The detectives and our office works night and day with them on search warrants and other things. We believe we have, obviously, the evidence to prosecute this individual who really was, as the chief said last night, the mastermind of trying to strike fear in the hearts and minds of elected officials because he didn't like the outcome of an election. And that is just unacceptable. And we'll do everything we can to bring him to justice and make sure that they are brought to justice.
There are already 15 charges against him. Is it possible that we could see more charges and more serious charges brought against him?
Possibly. We'll see it
what would that look like? What would those additional charges potentially be?
Well, right now, just to be clear, he's a felon in possession of a firearm he's been charged with. He's been shooting at an occupied dwelling ×4. He is shooting from a motor vehicle ×4, if you will. Attempted aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, 4 conspiracy counts, criminal solicitation. There's, as you have up on the screen, there is a number of charges, and we'll see if there's more coming or not.
Could a charge be attempted murder? Would you charge him with attempted murder, given that he's shooting into people's homes?
Well, that
Allegedly?
may arise. We're going to continue to finish out the investigation, but we know one thing: the ringleader's in custody. It's our belief at this point of this, and we know who the others involved are as well.
And just, can you give us a sense? What gives you your confidence? You say basically you have him. Is there one piece? I mean, I know. Yeah, understandable.
You know how we are, prosecutors. We don't want to compromise. This is early on, but my review of the evidence, we wouldn't bring charges if we weren't confident of these charges. But we're confident that we have the evidence necessary, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure he is held answerable to this, because it's just so unacceptable.
And give us a sense of what to expect. Solomon Peña is going to be appearing in court tomorrow. What should we expect to see? Tomorrow afternoon is
the arraignment. A pretrial detention motion will be filed very, very soon in the near future to keep him in custody. I imagine we'll probably have him on a track 3, which in our terms means probably trial within a year, hopefully.
We understand that he visited some of the homes that were targeted prior to these shootings. Did that raise a red flag for authorities? If not, why? And was anything missed here that could have prevented these shootings? And again, no one was injured. We want to stress that, but it could have been a lot worse.
No, I don't think necessarily that somebody missed the ball here. He was, we have a citizen legislature and elected officials in the county of Bernalillo that are county commissioners that were someone walks up to their door and knocks on it and then starts talking about how he should have won an election. Obviously, that may have brought some concern, but I don't think anybody missed it and saying, "Oh my gosh, this was going to happen." Nobody could have predicted what this guy was doing, but I think we've begun to solve these issues here.
And just very quickly, there are 2 other shootings that targeted state officials, but that have not yet been tied to Peña. What's the status of those investigations? Do you anticipate there will be a link determined?
I don't know. We don't have one yet at this point, but there are investigations involving those and any other acts of violence in Bernalillo County. I mean, that's what we do, and that's what the police department does a very good job at, and we're going to continue to investigate all leads that we may have. So we can't tie those other two yet, but we'll see.
All right, District Attorney Sam Bregman, thank you so much for your perspective and for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.